If you're looking to buy a new driver in 2025, then the likelihood is you could be looking or considering one of these two that I have in my hand. Possibly the most forgiving drivers of 2025, the best drivers for mid to high handicappers. It is, of course, the Callaway Elyte X model and the Qi35 Max. I'm going to put them in a very straightforward head-to-head and try and decipher which one might suit you, might not. What is the difference between these two in overall performance? Now, before we dive into the data, there are some quick considerations to make. These are both what you consider to be draw bias drivers, so they're going to help people who effectively slice the ball. There is a little bit of maneuverability in terms of weighting in a Callaway model, and that's just one slot that you can change this weight here into a more draw bias setting. And there is no adjustability in terms of head weight with the Qi35 model. There is, of course, plenty of adjustability in the loft sleeve on both of these. One final thing is the looks and shelf appeal. I think, to be fair, TaylorMade have absolutely smashed it out of the park on the look stake. This, for me, is their best looking lineup they've had to date. Looks superb, not only from a shelf appeal perspective, but when you turn it over and the crown, the address position, stunning. Not so complimentary towards the Callaway, certainly on the shelf appeal element, not overly fond of what they've done underneath. However, when you turn the club over, it's perfectly acceptable, let's say, but if you're buying on looks alone, the Qi35 is an all-out winner. But of course, looks doesn't hit the golf ball for you. So that's all I'm going to do in terms of the comparisons on the looks and the tech story. I'm just going to hit some golf balls and we'll do a good old-fashioned head-to-head. .138 ball speed. This, by the way, is the Qi35 Max. We've managed to hit the good old fade there, which is my shot shape. So as much as these are biased in terms of their weight into it a draw, there's certainly plenty of movement within that ball from left to right. What's really interesting there is a 139 ball speed off a 94 clubhead speed. So it's very efficient. Spin rate, the story behind the Max model this year really has been to utilize all the characteristics in terms of the weighting to launch the ball high, but it spun very high last year, so it could have some detrimental effects on your overall performance. And what they've tried to do is find a balance between the two. So still be able to launch the ball very high, still keep it as a 10K MOI driver, but drop that spin rate down. So you've really got to consider what it is you want a new driver for this year. And you've really got to start studying these parameters and see if in actual fact there is any worth in changing and what it is that you're trying to change from your current driver into a new one, because at the end of the day it's a huge investment, and at 500 quid we're going to try and decide whether or not it's worth it or not. On that shot itself, real good performance of that clubhead speed. I'm going to collect 10 shots with the Qi35 Max and then I will switch up to the Callaway equivalent. We can certainly fade this thing still. That's better. Still a little bit of a cut, but 141 ball speed. And again, that spin is not popping up above 3,000 revs, so you've got a great combination there between, again, ball speed to clubhead speed, spin number kept low, launching not too high, which would be the fear with the Max product. And overall, that 230 carry is pretty hot for me, to be honest with you. So first few shots, really impressed with what this thing's doing so far. I was just going to start things off, but they're different in shape again. The crown on the Callaway Elyte is sort of flatter, and there's a more raised profile. It's again down to very much personal preference and address. The only other thing I would say, and quite notably, is that the Callaway product seems a lot more shut to the left. So there's a lot more neutral position that the Qi35 seems to sit in, which would suggest, like I said, a bit more of the draw bias that we were expecting. That's certainly shot off the face. Yeah, really good ball. Again, the interesting thing for me is they sound very different this time around. Again, not a big deal, but it's something that The Callaway sounds hot in the sense that it seemed to shoot off the club face there. Really good starting point, 230 carry. That again, ball speed to club head speed, I always say that's the ratio that's important. So that's where you get your smash factor from. So in simple terms, no matter how, or it very much depends on how fast I swing the club, is going to be what kind of ball speed I can actually achieve. So anything for me with a smash factor of that 147 is performing efficiently. But it's the other numbers that are impressive. 14.8 launch, 2,500 revs of spin. That's a good start. And like I said, it feels hot. That is so frustrating. I got dragged that one left. Well dragged, it's done okay. And again, that sort of ball speed, touching 140, 223 carry. I flatten that ball flight out, I just close the face a bit. And that's one of the things that I would be interested to see what happens. And don't forget, if you're someone that slices the ball a lot, it's this kind of driver that is going to negate that in terms of the weighting system. It doesn't mean it's going to go away, it just means it can help in reducing it, is the way I would explain it. Now 138 again, that might have a cut on it. Yeah, big cut. Yeah, so really just reiterates the point I just made. Do not buy a driver, any type of driver, on the thought process that it will eliminate a certain shot type. There's a big fade gone in there in what is a driver that's weighted to suggest it won't do that. So do not be conned by the idea that that might be the principle. However, it still performed relatively well in terms of ball speeds. Those other numbers, spin rate crept up a bit there. So again, I'll hit 10 shots with this and see, can we really identify a difference? But maybe more importantly, is there any worth in buying either of these two drivers in 2025? Are you going to see any sort of gain from these two compared to your existing gamer? Right, we like to keep these things nice and simple because that's effectively what it is. It's a numbers game, this is TrackMan data, and there's a lot of personal preferences that will come into this equation. But for me, this is what I achieved. And first of all, if you look down on the bottom here, that is the averages. So 226 carry. My driving distances are 225 to 235. That's where I'm at, and that will be dependent on club head speed. So today, 94 mile an hour average club head speed, 226 carry, ball speed of 139, gives us an average smash factor of 148. So that was very efficient and pretty much as good as I can get with the club head speed that I had today. So more than happy with the carry distance and the ball speed. The launch for me again was a nice ball flight for driver, 13.7 launch, and then maintaining this 2-2 spin. That's a great combination. So, and when I say that, it goes back to what I mentioned when I talked about the Qi35 and in the range what they've tried to do. They've tried to reduce this spin number down in the Max product, because what you don't want is you don't want a ball that necessarily sort of balloons on you, hovers and spins too highly, and that was always a problem. So for a golfer like me who sat in this kind of 95 mile an hour club head speed, the Max was a dangerous product because it could really spin high and effectively impact a lot on this carry distance. Now the Max product would suit my type of club head speed and a lot others, I would suggest. So we'll come back into the detail of some of them shots, but then I'm going to go into the X, the Elyte X. We'll do exactly the same. Highlight them all, and we've got a 229 carry. So we are 3 yards up in carry, and would you believe that average club head speed was identical, 94.3, is that right? Yes, it is. So that's a real good comparison. So we've got 94.3 club head speed, carrying 229, ball speed 138.9, launching a little bit higher, but again maintaining a very low spin number. A smash factor, all those things combined at 1.47. So again, with my club head speed, it's performed incredibly well. And I think those other parameters are really interesting because you'd expect, like I said, the balls to start to launch high in the X model, as they call it, and that spin number to creep up. So that's really interesting. I'm going to have a look at one other thing which people talk about, dispersion. And I always think it's a bit of a myth, to be quite honest with you. First of all, no driver will I don't think have a great impact on your dispersion. I think that's very much it. When I say dispersion, left to right dispersion, because what effectively happens to me in terms of forgiveness, when you hit an off-center strike, the ball still travels as far as it does with a center strike. That's what forgiveness is for me. Forgiveness isn't about left and right, and as you can see, we've got plenty of kind of balls from left side of the fairway to right side of the fairway. What you'll see is this is the sort of center stripe. I've got more balls towards the left side of the fairway, which suggests to me when I was hitting this thing that the X model does a great job of negating, eliminating that fade. So it's weighted in a way that we're eliminating this side of the fairway. I could still do it, as you've seen on the video, but it did have a positive impact in terms of negating that right. We'll do exactly the same thing and go into the dispersion. More than happy, again, these are kind of like, they're fine in the fairway. Both drivers, by the way, both left and right of it. What you'll see here with the center stripe is we've got a bit of a mixed bag. Still fine in majority on the left side of the fairway, but we've got a few that leaked out to the right as well. I found, like I said, one interesting thing for me in this test personally was more to do with the head setup and at least the visual offset, what it felt like at address, and that being a lot more on the X model. It almost felt more shut off at address and a driver that I would literally sort of close easier, and that closing means, again, negating that fade a little bit. So that was one of the difference I sort of found at address. Sort of seen it in the numbers, maybe with more balls on the left-hand side of the fairway with that X model, but there was the overriding sort of result is ultimately there's no difference between the two in terms of performance, and we all really kind of know that. We know that there is no great expectation. This carry distance isn't going to increase significantly. Ball speeds are where they are at. You've just got to find a driver that suits you in all these other parameters that make sure you're getting the most efficient driver for your swing type. And the likelihood is, to be quite honest with you, if you've got a driver in recent years, you're not going to really see any great gains, if any at all. So be very wise how you spend your money. I know you're all educated people out there, but go and get custom fit. Consider these numbers and make sure you do some realistic comparisons. And if you are going to commit to a big purchase like this, these things, all of these things have got to be beneficial, and that's how you'll get a decent performing driver in your hands. Right, that's me done. A very straightforward, very simple process, and really it's over to you now to do your own testing and see what you find. As ever, thank you for watching, and I will see you all very soon.